All right. Well, good afternoon. How's everyone doing?
Awesome.
Right.
Doing great.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Well, we're back for another broadcast of the Watchdogs on all things relevant media. Julius, we got a great discussion today. And we have two awesome guests that have returned. We're talking about mentoring, right? Mentoring and what it looks like for our youth, especially nowadays where we're starting to see a rise in crime or things that are just kind of being distractions from our young people. Even ourselves, we've kind of come through that phase. But anything you want to share with us today, Mr. Hall, Mayor Hall, before we get started? I think you might be muted. Yeah, you are muted.
I don't know why I was muted. I was talking to somebody. Um, it's just what I wanted to say was, this is something that's needed so we can get younger people involved. Um, um, and what we need to do is have a whole, the whole screen need to be filled with all 10 spots that's available instead of just 4, so we can get these ideas out so we can start doing the things that needs to be done to save some of these at-risk youth that are out there. And whatever we can do on this platform, we're going to do. I know you try to do it once a month with the youth um, um, in our busy schedule, so we'll continue to do that.
Right. And you yourself, and we'll talk about some of this, have a mentoring piece out there where you are, which is good, given everything you're doing, and to take time to help a younger person kind of stay focused. It's a huge thing. By the way, shout out to Marcus Thompson. If y'all don't remember, he ran for District House seat 164 last year. Well, Marcus, a good alpha man. Hope you're watching. If you're not, you're going to owe me lunch. So if you know Marcus Thompson, you better get him tuned in. Or he's going to be paying for a lunch at Ruth Chris. All right, let's get started.
You just shouted him out. Is he doing something else now?
Well, I know he's working. I'm not going to tell his business. I know he's working for the government. Now just leave it at that.
Yeah. I'm saying I thought he was running for something again. Okay.
He also ran for city council right after the House seat. So
yeah, I know. I'm talking about right now.
Oh no, not right now. No.
Oh, okay.
I hope he does jump back in the ring because Marcus. If y'all don't know Marcus Thompson, good brother, smart guy, and passion for the people. But he ran a good race when he did run for 164. If they redraw those lines right, we need to get him back out there.
Yeah, they're gonna redraw him, and it's gonna be something else.
Yeah. I saw your good boy Kicklighter talking about that the other night. But anyway,
he was crying. He was crying. He wanted to talk. Yeah, he was just
so Tiffany, y'all can stay unmuted. We're just gonna have this conversation. But if you all could kind of reintroduce yourselves, and I'll share a little bit. I've known Tiffany for a while now. Back when I used to live in Athens at UGA, the University of Georgia for our University of Florida fans. Which segues over to Tevin. I met him at Georgia State. Young, bright gentleman who's working on his doctorate. But if y'all want to add more to your intro, please do, and we'll go right into the discussion.
I'm cool with that intro. I'm fine with that. Go Gators.
Go Gators. You from Florida?
No, I've been a diehard since I want to say I was in 5th grade, 6th grade, 7th grade. I don't know. I hate Ohio State. I knew that, and I ended up watching Florida on TV one day, and I'm like, well, I like their colors. Then, I went down to Florida, saw a few games, and I'm like, well, I like it down here. And I've been hooked ever since.
Oh, okay. Because I used to be a Florida fan when
Steve gotta get you back. Go and get you back to the good side.
Why don't y'all win?
Well, I like Florida. I like Florida as long as they're not playing Georgia.
There you go. You 3-1, buddy. I don't tell you.
Yeah, it is what it is. Defending SEC East champs. That's okay.
Oh, okay. That's a shout out. I miss Tiffany. Tiffany had to abuse her kids. I'm just playing, y'all.
Let Tevin tell everybody what he's doing.
Oh, okay. My bad.
Okay. I'm currently pursuing my PhD at IUPUI University, which is in Indianapolis, downtown Indianapolis. It's an urban community or urban campus. I have a focus in policy and law with a specialty in advocacy. Currently, I'm working in the law school as an assistant to the diversity and inclusion office. So I'm working closely with first generation college students and also the affinity groups that we have represented in our law school. And also mentor with the Bloom Project, which is a pre-college program for high school male youth. And we just prepare them academically, socially, emotionally, and also try to provide as much financial support for them. So when they're ready to make that next jump into post-secondary education, to have the means to do so financially.
And Robert, why you didn't tell me that I still had that name under
I
telephone?
thought you wanted people to call in, so I was like, well, maybe that's a strategy. I didn't know.
No, they could call in. They could call in if they want to. No,
I thought there was a strategic part behind it.
No, I was engineering a show last night, and I put that up there so that it can be so people can call in, and what I had up there was that right there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And
I thought the people were after you out there. That, you know, sometimes the political races get hot and heated, and they come after you. So I didn't know. Maybe you're trying to be disguised.
Yeah, that was for America After Dark last night.
Oh yeah.
So Tiffany, tell us what you're doing and who you are, darling.
Well, I am Tiffany Taylor. I'm the founder of Mothers of Black Sons. We're a developmental program based here in Athens, Georgia. We just received our 501c3. What we do is we place young African American men that's here in the Athens community with entrepreneurs, African American entrepreneurs. We also have started workshops where men from the community come and talk to the boys about the obstacles that they went through to start a business. Also with job shadowing. We've also started peer meetings where we just get the boys together and we speak about the issues that's going on today and how they feel like they fit and how they feel like they can overcome it instead of being a statistic. And so it's really important to me because I am the mother of 4 sons, 5 sons in November. So I really wanted to have a program where our boys aren't just once they get older just thrown into the streets, sort of say, with gangs. Gangs are at an all-time high here in Athens, and it's starting to be more rapid in the schools and in the sports area than necessarily out in the streets now. And so what we've done is I've talked with some coaches about how to identify with gang activities on their football team, basketball teams, and just how to speak to the boys about being above gangs instead of being a part of gangs. And so I'm really excited about all of the things that we're accomplishing, the things that we're starting because we are fairly new.
That's awesome. That's awesome because I was just wondering whether I didn't know y'all had any you said black business men in Athens. I've been to Athens a couple of times.
They're fairly young. Some of them are young, which is also great because we serve kids from 7 to 17, and some of the entrepreneurs are fairly new, 20s to 30s. I haven't really met any that was older than that, which is kind of a good thing because what I've seen is that the boys gravitate towards the younger men that look kind of cool, that kind of look like who they would mock anyway, or like I guess hip is what I want to say. Not saying that anyone that's older isn't hip, but I've noticed how the boys flock towards the younger entrepreneurs than they do the older entrepreneurs.
No, that makes sense. And Tevin will probably attest to this, is that even in where we work in higher ed, even in K-12, kids tend to gravitate, like you said, Tiffany, towards people that are in. They can share a conversation. A person at my age group in my 40s, they see me more as like their dad, and so I think, Kevin, what would you say about that?
Um, yeah, one, I was gonna say, you're not in your 40s, Unc.
Yes,
Um,
I am. I'm 43.
and two, I think I
Tiffany,
also
no.
agree with that. I also agree that I think because they can see themselves in that, like something simple as your teacher wearing Jordans that day, they can relate to that, or something simple as a T-shirt that repping your favorite team or something like that, or just new music that's out. They can see themselves, and they see it like, okay, it's okay for me to like Black culture, because often Black culture, people who are not a part of the culture, they might view it as ghetto or thug like or anything like that. So they might be looking at to code switching in that certain moment. But if they see professionals, people who are doing well, who are promoting good community involvement, who are hands-on, who are being a right steward of citizen, I would say, they can respect that. And they can see that they can still be cool or hip or urban or whatever they want to classify themselves as, and that's still okay. They can be who they are. But I think I know for me, I always lean on how young I look when I'm working with young people, and I talk to them about things that they want to talk about. I talk to them about sports. I talk to them about new artists. I talk to them about unfortunately, like traumatic experiences and things like that, and our social media. Like, I can understand it. I mean, I have a nephew who's like 21 right now, so I'm not really too far removed. And one of my youngest nieces, she's like 12. So I just, I think it's just a way to me. For me personally, I have to kind of keep my ear to the street. And I know what the young people are thinking, or doing, or I feel like by the generation or even by the decade, problems change. We're dealing with different problems that than what we had to deal with before. We didn't really have technology as a beast now. We didn't have to deal with that when we were coming up.
So where do you get these kids from? Because as as prevalent as the gangs are today, you have you can't you try to get them before they go in the gangs,
Mm-hmm.
but where do you find that you're having to get these kids from? Do you catch them before they get in the gang? Do you try to get the gang members? Because see, once they get indoctrinated into their gangs, initiated in, then it's hard to get them out.
Well, me, since I do have sons, my sons are my biggest advocates. My two older sons, they are athletes. And so what I found is, and because I live in the heart of, I'm gonna say, the hood. I mean, because, well, the my community is very urban, right? And so we have outside basketball goals or whatever. My sons, they aren't ashamed to say that my mom has a mentor program, and that we go places and that we do things. And so I rarely have to go out to find young boys. They usually just come to me. Like, well, can we come? Can we be a part of it? Now, my son is also now playing football for the high school. And on the football team, there has been issues with gang members and bullying. Well, there's more young boys that don't like that personality of that young boy to not want to be in the game than who wants to be a part of the mentoring program. Because I like to hang out with these boys. They're not getting in trouble. They're not bullying anybody. They're not making anybody be ashamed. Um, with the younger boy, with the boys that are in gangs, they really are, whew, like, really hard to reach, because they feel like they found their spot. They feel like they found their brotherhood. And so with that, I usually just speak with the coaches on how to break the ice and get the team as a team. Because if they can feel like they're a team and they don't have to go out and get themselves in trouble, then they're least likely to want to be a part of that game. And I also elaborate, like, here in Georgia, there's not really like the gangs in Chicago, the gangs in Philadelphia are way worse than the gangs here in Georgia. If you were to walk in the shoes of a teenager that lived in Chicago, that lived in Philadelphia, then you would run scared. You wouldn't want to be a part of the gang. And so I'm the scare tactic a little bit, it plants a seed, and I just pray that it grows, that, so I just put faith first. But as far as going out to find young boys, they usually find me.
Okay, that's awesome. That's awesome. I had to find mine, but they were. I have about 10 here in my community, and about 5 or 6 that I share with somebody else in Savannah, and I had to find them because they were just terrorizing my neighborhood. So I had to go out. Yeah. Now I don't even know what I'm getting into because they call me at 11:30 at night to pick them up from work, all kind of stuff. I'm dead asleep. They don't have a ride home. They calling me. So I better get you
what, Julius? You said something key in that, and I think it's something we can expand upon. It's a support system and accountability. It's almost like I'm noticing that as a theme when young people, especially young Black males, don't have accountability, a support system that they can trust and believe in, and someone holding them accountable. That's a missing gap often.
Right.
It is, and that's where we have to fill in the gap. It's there. And sometimes you want to quit with the ones I got. I'm serious. I just want to quit sometimes. I pay them for everything they do so they can get the sense of being worthy, the sense of earning some pay. I don't have them volunteer on nothing. And the thing is, I'm trying to get them into the mentality that, when somebody's good to you and doing something for you, sometimes do something, give back, give back,
Right.
And mine, they aren't there yet. So it's going to be a journey for me.
But and I love from our guests tell us, what has been y'all experience with that? Because often I tell people this all the time, be careful how you judge a person because, I tell people this all often. When I was growing up, I could have gone either path. The difference between me and the next person was by the time I got to middle school, my mother was retired. So when I got home, it was structure and it was no deviation from that. Everyone doesn't have that. Again, it goes back to making sure that you sense of belonging. I knew I had a support system and I was held accountable on a daily basis. So to try to go out and hang out with friends and do all this stuff and not focus, it wasn't an option then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're one of the lucky ones.
Yeah.
We just got to go out and catch them people. Tevin's a great example of what other young men need to be doing to pull the ones behind them up. Because here it is, he's setting an example for them to look at. This is the model. This is the model for you to look at. Here it is, his second year of working on his doctorate. And that's what these kids need to look at, especially how you can walk around and not have to be pressured to join a gang, be pressured to hang on the corner. There's nothing on the corner for us these days but the jailhouse. So so we I applaud Tiffany and Tevin for what they're doing, and we just need more people to get involved because it is our responsibility to save our communities. We can't wait on somebody else to do it.
Yeah. And I think that's a great point you just made too. And I think that's what it is. A lot of people are sitting back because they're like, well, I don't really have time, or that's not really my job or my responsibility. But truthfully, it is our responsibility. That's because we are one community. We are as one. Because if my entire block looks trifling and it's trash everywhere, stuff like that, that's a reflection on how they probably think my house looks or how my life is. So it's as simple as that. And for me, I think I view mentoring in a sense of informal and formal, right? So like I feel like my students get more of a formal mentorship for me, but I also find little pockets. So I have a background in wrestling. So I mentor that way as well. That's something that I'm already going to do. But usually when I'm wrestling, there's always one individual who can go either way, just like kind of how I was. And I leverage that bond that we already have, and I'm asking about like, okay, we want to get better in wrestling, but what are the things you're doing in here that you could probably do outside of the wrestling room as well to make you a better person, or to keep you out of trouble, or to make you some money, or to do things like that. And coming from a family where I was the first in my family to get a degree, first in my family not to have a felony, then have a brother who did a 12-year prison system, then have another brother who was involved in gangs. I got to see it firsthand of like, okay, but they always talked to me. Like, they didn't want me doing that. They didn't want me out there. Like and even one of the times that I actually tried, they made sure like, look, this isn't for you. You see the difference? Like it's just not for you. And I think a lot of young people get caught up in that because they get the bond, but things get a little shaky out in these streets because that's how it does. And it's not the same. And they realize that it's not true. That the things that they were once told by their big homies wasn't true, or he was lying to them. They was just trying to use them or manipulate them. But I think it comes down to finding people that you actually trust, that you don't mind to be, and how to figure out how you can make some good decisions in your life. And it's all about making a lot of good decisions at the right moment to kind of keep you away, because one bad decision for young Black men, that could cost you.
And it seems like it almost seems like we can't catch up to me because I mean we're doing everything that we can. You got people that I see, a couple of people that are watching that I know are mentors. You got Gator Rivers. Gator Rivers is out every day with a basketball in his hand. Y'all probably too young to know about Gator Rivers. Gator Rivers is world famous Harlem Globetrotter. Back when the Harlem Globetrotters was really famous. But Gator mentors kids every day. And he'll get on your nerve all the time, but that's him there putting up something. Bring high school coaches and athletic directors on your show. They're the ones who are in touch with okay, that's what we're going to do. We are. And, I tried to have you on the show, Gator, to do a sports show so you can reach out to these kids, but we're going to get all that done. We have some shows coming up with the high school coach, well, with the coaches, the little league coaches and everything. But like I was saying about Gator, he'll get on your nerve, but Gator's doing a great service to our community with these young kids out there. And Gary Monroe, he's out of Garden City. Gary Monroe, he's Garden City, for y'all too that don't know, is right in between Savannah and Port Wentworth. It's in Savannah. But Gary Monroe does great with the youth also.
I ain't laughing at you, Julia. Y'all again, we tell it all. You get all the real news here, baby, all the tea. Thank you, Coach Rivers, for sharing that.
I told you would get on your nerves. I told you that.
But I also, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
No, go ahead, sir.
Okay. I also want to note that like we have to hold more of the educational system accountable too, because a lot of these practices start in elementary. I remember different things that I was doing in elementary that were school practices, and it might be as simple as having my hands behind my back, or when you get in trouble, standing on the line during recess, or just there's other discipline methods. But they didn't tell young Black boys how to control their anger when they got upset, or like instead of hitting somebody, let's talk it out. Like, why are you upset? Let's talk this out. That emotion that you're feeling, let's keep talking it out and figure out some healthy coping mechanisms that we can address that. And a lot of school systems, they don't have those practices in place. They don't want to deal with it. Get out of my classroom, or I go stand in the corner, right? So I think a lot of that comes down to, and that's why I'm in education personally, is to leverage education, because majority of, I would say at least all of children nowadays have to receive some type of formal or informal type of education, right? So that is a starting point, but we also must address the practices that exist within those education systems that lead them to that. When the teachers don't look like them, or you have security all up and down the school system, making them feel like animals, or that you're not really listening to them. So that eventually trans over to different things that we start to do. I remember this was one game we used to play in elementary. It was called BB Butcher. And every time you say the word B or a letter with the B, we all get on you and start hitting you until you say BB Butcher. Now looking back at it, I'm like, okay, so we can't say B's. So okay, B's as in like blood, or B's as in whatever else you want to do that. But that is a simple game that we thought as children that was just a game
Oh, terrible.
similar to a gang initiation or and stuff like that. Like we were wild, and now looking back at it, I'm like, oh, we were really wild. And all these things kind of happened under the teacher's nose, or they just didn't want to address it. But I think it also goes back to starting there, starting in um, there wasn't it on the porch. Sorry, it all starts at the school level, and I think this is where we come in because kids have too much free time. You can't allow them to have so much free time, and that's when after school programming and community involvement is important, because it's just you have to attack it from all angles.
All right. Tiffany, do you mentor young women also?
I don't. I have recently been asked to coordinate a young girls and a teenage girls mentoring program. I am the product of a mentoring program. When I was younger, we had ARAP, which was African American women advocating for. I really don't even remember the acronym, but I remember every woman that was a part of the mentoring program had a specific job, like they were career women, and we would all sit in a circle, and we would discuss topics. They would take us out, and I grew up in the same neighborhood at which I live in now, and so I knew the effects of having a mentor, and how you could talk to how I was able to talk to my mentor, who was, maybe 19 or 20 at the time. And I was able to talk to her about things that I was going through as a young woman that I didn't necessarily feel comfortable talking to my mom. And so, that's what geared me towards Mothers of Black Sons. But as of right now, I'm strictly boys. I'm just the director. I just find men who I think would be compatible to help young men stay out of trouble.
It's a and like I said, we're doing it, and people don't get the notoriety that a lot of people get with like a 100 black men. But you got a good friend of mine, Mawuli Davis, in Atlanta. He has Black Man Lab, and Black Man Lab is doing a great job in that area with mentoring these young kids also. And I would like to bring a Black Man Lab here in Savannah, bring a chapter of that here in Savannah, and just be under their organization with mentoring these kids, because and that's what we need. It ain't about who's getting credit for anything. It's about us saving these kids. And I know.
And honestly, you know what we need, and I'll go back to this. Recently, I don't know if y'all know this, Tevin and Tiffany, but we had a beautification project in Savannah that received all this money. Yet you have a crime problem, and there's no money put out. Instead of putting bricks on the street, we should have been putting money into those mentoring programs. And I would love to talk about resources and how local, regional governments, grants need to be more accessible to support these programs. I'll give you a great example. Even with University of Georgia, with Tiffany sitting right there at a research one, there should be oodles of resources there to support these types of programs. And so, how easy or difficult has that been, in you all's opinion, and how could that change? Because we've got to start putting resources in these programs, y'all, instead of putting bricks in the streets.
Yeah, I think we just saw it with I would say like the race issues, and with black individuals getting killed and murdered by the police. We just saw it. We saw everyone have Black Lives Matter splattered everywhere, right? That's performative. But what we didn't see is the initiatives, the efforts, the you being present in these communities to resolve these issues that we clearly have, that are clearly established. But they would rather paint or design a mural or something like that rather than to actually create programming, create funding, or even match funding. And that there's more money going to the prison system than we have to send Black children to college. There's more money for that. It costs $800. So it's a redirecting of funds that are already being distributed. But what we're seeing is we'll rather be performative and keep everybody quiet because it seems like we really care instead of getting out here putting in the legwork. And I agree, everybody kind of got their place. Like I'm one of those advocates where you're not going to see me 100%. You're not going to see me 9 times out of 10, doing a lot of marches. I'm going to be behind the back. I'm going to, be kind of behind the curtain, making sure all the administrative stuff is done, making sure, we have all the policies and regulations down there, and I'm going to be hands-on with the actual work with the students within my lane. So I think people just got to find what they're good at and what they already do, and figure out a way to utilize it. So if you're teaching, another hustle that you could have is tutoring, and finding a community center where you can tutor. And that may not be with young kids, but it may be like with adults who re-entering the society from prison or something like that, or juveniles trying to get them the GED or finding certificates for them. So I just think it's a redistributing of money. But until we get to a point where policies are equitable and funds are equitable across the board, I think we're going to continue to see the things that we're seeing.
And it's very disheartening when you can see with your eye how affected our youth is. And in Athens, a lot of people wouldn't want to say that Athens is segregated, but that's not true, because you can ride by the YMCA and you can see, children that's not African American that's having the time of their lives. Whereas the African American children in my community doesn't even have a community center to play in. So they play around in their communities, they play outside the house. And, at some point, you have to feel for the young children that's coming up, because they were born into this situation. They were born into this system. They you know they deserve their own space. They deserve a space where they can come and feel comfortable and feel like they can be themselves so that they can thrive. A lot of children, I would say, in Athens don't have that. You can go on one side of Athens and it looks totally different than the side of Athens that I stay on. 5 Points doesn't even look like the east side of Athens, because there is so much funding in that side of Athens than there is on the east side of Athens. And like you said, Robert, the University of Georgia, they own so much property on the east side of Athens, and they put it into housing. They build houses, they put students in housing and charge those students $1,000 a room. But we can't even get our community centers to open. Like, we can't get the commissioners to even hear us out as far as opening up our community centers, letting us have computers, letting us have tutorial for children when they get out of school. They get out of school and they don't have anything to do. A lot of our children are from single parent homes. Their moms are at work when they get out of school. So what are they going to do? Who do they have to help them with their homework? And then that's an anxiety within itself, because when they get back to school the next day, they didn't get to do their homework, or they don't understand the assignment. And so it looks like that it looks as if they're not trying. But, who is going to be there to step in the gaps? That's why we need funding. We need funding because our children are falling in between the gaps of a system that they were only born into, which is easy, like, for them to fall into gangs, to feel like I belong. I belong here because my mom
Mhm.
is at work. I don't have anyone to help me with my homework. When I go outside, I'm bullied. If I'm on the football team, I'm bullied. I I have so much passion for our youth as a mother because I don't want to be just a person in my community that's seeing the deterioration of my community, which is East Athens, Georgia, and not do anything about it. I don't want my sons to be a part of a generation to feel like, well, I'm gonna just shoot basketball out here and I'm gonna lean towards that. And if I don't, then I'm gonna go and work at a plant because I don't have any other options, or I feel like I don't have any other options. I feel like um there's just so much money that can go into the building of our youth to make our society a lot better than what it is to now. And it's being ignored. It's so frustrating that it's being ignored, and it's so frustrating because our children see it and they play into it because no one cares, because it looks like no one cares. And some of our parents won't even hold themselves accountable.
Yeah.
They won't even come to the events, the community events. They won't even send their children to the community events, let alone get involved. And I feel like we have to break that stigma. We have to break that generational curse that says it's okay to be nothing, because it's not okay to be nothing. Like, you were born from royalty. The melanin in your skin is a blessing. Like, I get real passionate about this. So y'all have to
No, that's a
forgive
good thing. I love it. You preaching.
me.
And one of the things Miss Hudson just posted is that people got to learn to collaborate. What blows me, and we have what you talked about, Tiffany, we have a very similar situation here in Savannah, Georgia, with a private college where they want to re-gentrify and take over a whole part of town where historically black neighborhoods have been, but yet have yet to offer admission or even try to work closely with the community in which they're trying to re-gentrificate. So we won't even go there because we got the same thing
Yeah,
going on here. But even furthermore, we have a whole mayor and a city council that looks just like us, but yet we can't get anything to help our people. And so I won't get on that soapbox, but you're exactly right. When
Well,
we
you have
fail
to
to
make
come to
sure
the
that
table,
you
go ahead, brother.
make, make sure that you say that it ain't the entire city
It
council,
ain't the
because
entire city
they,
council, but what
yeah,
I'm saying is, if
we don't want them
if the
killing us
mayor and the
again.
two over there that think that they skin color got lighter, I ain't gonna call it names, but when the two that think they get that sold out on us, actually now three, when they realize how they look again and come to the table with the three that are advocating for the community, do you realize what we could do for the people that have been neglected historically in the city of Savannah and around Georgia? I look
Yeah,
at Atlanta.
yeah,
There is
yeah.
no reason why there's no plan of action to stop all that crime in Atlanta. But Tiffany, you hit the nail on the head. We forget who we are. We forget that our people had to build these things and had to be strategic about it. And now we can't even get our own people to advocate for the kids out here getting killed every day. They won't stand on their 2 feet.
yeah,
It is a
That
shame.
blows my mind. That just blows my mind. In cities around Georgia, for example, you can't see. You show me one place where there has been anything to help the youth. Any city. Name one thing. It blows my mind when we have majority on these boards to make these decisions. Yet we'll go over here and bend over backwards to make sure the well-to-do areas, the haves, get more bricks in the
mhm,
street. It blows my mind.
yeah,
Yes, it is terrible. We already passed the personal experiences, right? We had should funding be provided to these organizations, especially the one like Tiffany has. You know, we got to find a way. And even with those entrepreneurs that you have, Tiffany, it's just not that their service, but we need their finances also,
right,
so that we can so you can do some other things with these kids, so you can take them places also,
right,
so they can be culturally aware of what is out there for them, if they just open their eyes, if they just listen and be willing to go with you to wherever you're going to take them, to open their eyes. And the funds are very important because you can't keep doing it on, especially with four and a half kids, 5 kids. You know, you got to be able to, you know, you about to have 5 boys, so yeah, you gonna need help, and it's and my problem with the community is that um, they have not they see the need, and these people are paying attention. They see it. They are, even if they aren't paying attention, all they have to do is reach out and say, "Hey, who's out there helping these youth? I want to give." It ain't all about I want to get all the money and I want to keep it to myself and I want to hoard it in my bank account. No, you got to be able to give back because a lot has been given to you, so a lot is expected of you. And these the black businessmen, once they get successful, they don't understand that. I only think the athletes understand it. The rappers, they don't understand it. They spend this money on garbage. I've never owned a pair of Jordans in my life.
You
In my
missing out.
life, never wanted a pair. Never wanted a pair. And that's the mentality that they need to have. Stop getting all these luxury items and do something good in the community that you are also tearing up with your destructive words in your rap songs. You get Tyler Perry is a prime example of what people should do with their money. Whenever Tyler Perry see anything, he just give it and go do it. you know. And these people, we got celebrities and athletes with a lot of money that can fund these organizations that can make a difference and help save some of these kids. But do you think they're doing it? No. They come back and they give football camps. The hell a football camp gonna do to a kid that's at the football camp? The football camp, he's there. You ain't got to worry about him. He's trying to make it to the next level. That's what I say about 100 black men. I don't want to. I ain't gonna get that. Don't go get the kids that's already gonna make it. Go get the kid that ain't gonna make it. The at-risk kid.
Yes.
Right.
That's right.
Go get them kids I got. Trade
right.
them ones you got. You know what I'm saying? It's terrible. And I ain't down in it. They doing what they can, I guess, but they should do more. They should reach out farther. Their reach should be a little bit deeper.
You're exactly right. We're working on with our chapter, Alpha chapter here in Savannah. We're working on developing a program as well. And the brothers on that committee will tell you. I told them I don't want the kids that are going to make it. I want the kids who about to go down to juvenile that we can save. That's what I want. I want the kid over there in the hood that is about to make the wrong decision that we can save. I don't want to go to the status quo. They're gonna be all right. They're gonna be straight. We gotta get those two. We gotta just put on track. You know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, that's gonna save our community. We don't always think outside the box. We want to go get the easy stuff. Let's work with the stuff that's challenging. And it's not about, and we've talked about this. It's not about getting the plaques and all that. It's about changing the world, because if we don't change the world, we're gonna be in some trouble. And too many people care about us but us. Let's just put it out there.
Yeah, and a lot of the children that are more fortunate than most, when they make it, they rarely come back. It's those that have seen their mother struggle. It's those who had to help their younger brothers and sisters because their mom is at work. That come back and say, "Hey, I have to help my community because I made it. I have to help this young man because I made it through." And those are the ones that are mostly overlooked because of the situations, because they're not, playing in sports, because they're not, necessarily A and B students. Well, they have, they have to be guardians to the ones that are around them. And so, there's a lot of different situations that plague our youth, our girls as much as our boys, because there's also teenage pregnancy. There's also abortions. There's also addiction. Here in Athens, Georgia, there has been a spike in addiction in our youth. And it's not marijuana, but it's heroin, it's meth, and it's these young children, they don't know how to handle addiction. this strong, but it's so easy to get, and they lose their way, and it's ignored. It's saddening to see a 15-year-old girl who's strung out, who's don't feel like that she can go home because she's been molested, or because she feel like no one cares about her. So there's a lot of things that I see in my community here in Athens that plague our youth, and it's disheartening to see how ignored it is. Like, well, they'll find their way. Well, we have organizations like my organization that, I get ignored. You know what I mean? Like a lot of stuff that we do, it does come out of pocket. And so we just, I don't mind getting on people's nerves about funding. I don't mind asking, because if you don't ask, then they can only say no or yes.
And
So,
and to your defense, the city and the county, these agencies that have the funds to help fund you, they should have something set up where you don't need to go to them. They coming to you because they're out looking for somebody that's doing something great. Because if you're helping to save these kids from being in a gang, that's going to lower crime.
Yeah.
Then why not use those resources instead of putting $17 million down to lay some damn bricks on Broad Street in Savannah? Why not use this money to fund mentoring groups so that you can save these kids? We just got the wrong mindset with how we should go about saving us. We think that laying down some bricks can save some kids. All that's going to do is make somebody walk a little smoother that don't even live here.
Well, what it is I rather put money into to bring in tourists, but yet what happens when the tourist gets robbed? You see how that work out? Now you mad when you could have fixed the issue on the front end.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly how we have to frame our arguments: mutual interest. Because truthfully, nobody cares about us but us, right? But if you frame it in a way where it's like, look, if they're gonna continue to do this, they might come out and start robbing our suburban kids, and now it's gonna be a problem, right? So, and that's the way you kind of have to frame it, and you got to frame it that way, and also economically of how, like, the benefits for the city or the community that you live in. Because if it's just like, for a mentoring program, they may not do it, but if they see how that mentoring program benefits them, and especially if they're campaigning or they're doing something like, I'm okay with that. Like, this game is already dirty as it is, but if we can save a few black kids, while doing that, that's cool. That's cool with me. But as long as we have that funding, we're doing everything we need to do, because it's getting bad out here, and guns are more accessible, and we're starting to see younger age and more younger students suffer from it. And truancy is big right now. So if they're not in school, what are they doing? And we know exactly what they're doing. And it may not be. And some of them, to be honest with you, some of them don't really even have a choice. They're like, okay, my mom is strung out, or my mom's not home, or she always working. Let me figure out how I can help, because I got 3 little siblings and I don't want them going through what I got to do. And I feel like that's what my brother did for real. And just like, and looking back at it now, he did have other options, but he was hard-headed and didn't want to listen. And he'll tell you the same too. But looking at it, but now we have a different vision. And that comes from me now being more educated, me seeing 3 other brothers go through systems and deal with that type of thing, and seeing cousins and things like that. I get to kind of learn from example. But it also takes us who have made it out to decode some of the things that are happening, like, and making it to the point like, look, this is why you need to vote, or this is why you need to go to your city council meeting, or this is why you need to hold these people accountable. And cancel culture is a huge thing right now, but it's like what I'm seeing now, a lot of people are holding artists more accountable than they hold their politicians. And I'm I'm like, you care about that? Okay, that's cool. I guess that is bad, but do you know the politician is also touching on kids, and he's working with your kid, or he's defining policies in there, and he's making management, but you don't want to hear that. Or the judge is going to send, you're what 3 or 4 times more likely to get sentenced for your first offense than a white kid would be. So those are things that they have to realize and see visually. And I think that just comes from, again, us just continue to do things like this, giving back, spread the word and different little bit of information, but also getting the political leaders and the funders to see, like, look, y'all making this a little bit more harder than it has to be because we already have the answers. We just need funding to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things that can be done, and especially in our community, when you look at it, people don't look at this, and we need to address it. We always got to be honest and address the 800-pound gorilla in the room. If you go through any community in an urban city, you will see that the only community with people on the corners are the black community. Nobody else hangs on corners. Think about it. What city you went to and you see, and you go into neighborhoods where they're hanging on corners. I mean, it has a lot to do with poverty, but we have to change the mindset of our kids. We
Yes.
do. We have to change the mindset of our kids. And the funding, like Star said here, she said, for funding with children, they want proposals,
Yeah.
logistics, case studies, proof of 501(c)(3), too much red tape. People who really want to make a difference in the inner cities go through so much because of lack of business structure, direction, and support. And it takes people to come in and set those apparatuses up for people like Tiffany, so that Tiffany can get that funding. She said she just got her 501(c), but now somebody needs to come in who's a great grant writer and say, "Hey, let me help you. I need to help you get a grant."
And honestly,
Help wherever you can.
that's right. And honestly, and I'll throw this out to people like Star. Tiffany will tell you, I love doing that tap work. It's actually one of my aspects of my consulting. I do it for half price for Star and people who are trying to do this work because it's important. And you're right. You got to do all that stuff, put it together. I love to help people put that stuff together because it's so important. And Tiffany will tell you, we started this one about a year ago from the ground up, and she has a board,
Yeah.
and we just, and the other part is connecting people. Tiffany now is working with Robert Jordan, and brother Robert Jordan. If y'all don't know about Male Dreamers, he has built a phenomenal program, from grassroots. And so, we got to start, another thing, sharing resources. Who does what, who can help where.
Right. And and also what I've learned, because I never initially thought about having a mentoring program until my boys got older, and the lack of mentorship that there was in my community. Like, I got tired of them saying, well, your son has behavior problems and he would benefit from a mentor, but as of right now we don't have any mentors available. What I also got tired of is when there was a mentor available, he didn't look like my son. So how are you going to help my son believe in himself when you don't look like him, you don't go through the things that he go through? Like, he may not, and I didn't want my children to see another race be as superior. If that makes sense. Like,
It makes total sense.
he has a white mentor, and this is who I just, as a mother of a black son, I just didn't see that happening. I knew that my son would connect more with someone that looks like him, like you, Tevin, like you, Mr. Hall, because they see themselves in an African American male. If he made it, then I can make it. And so I just stepped out on my own. I was like, I'm going to do this not for only my son, but for my son's friends, because they need this. They need to see that there are African American men that helps their community, that help raise their children, who has businesses, who's thriving. And I went through so much. I went through so much in this past year with trying to get a 501(c)(3, get support within itself, because like I said, my community, they see our community falling apart, but they're very seldom to want to step out and help unless the school has been locked down because of a shooting, or you know, a child has died because of gang activity. Then there's, where are the people that want to save the youth? Where are they at? No, where are you guys? We're right here, but we're being ignored because I'm not popular enough, and I'm fine with not being popular, you know. But those are some of the things that I still deal with. Like, we just have to read, like was what was already said about renewing our minds, like resetting our minds, wanting better for our children, even if we have to go through hurdles, because it's not gonna be easy. It's not easy at all. But if it was easy, it wouldn't be worth it. Right?
That's right.
That's right.
So I
That's right.
just
Well, we got to do better. We got to find a way to make it work. It's a lot of it's just amazing because there's a lot of groups out here that are mentoring these kids, and we still lagging behind. We still almost like, I know we winning, but it feels like we're losing.
Mhm.
You know, it
Right.
feels like we're losing because when you look at the news every day and you see these kids still killing each other on the streets every day, you know, you see the rapper in Atlanta the other day running from the police in a one of those souped up BMWs with the butterfly doors. The doors
What
open
the
up
fuck
in the
you
middle.
thought you was gonna get, bro? Like, what you thought?
Yeah,
What? You, oh, and
and
they
he
probably had rims, so you really ain't going too far. So,
yeah. Did you
yeah.
see the
Anyway,
video? Did you see the video? The kid
I
got
did.
out
I
and
was like,
had a gun or something in his hand and threw it
hey, you
up in the
couldn't even
air.
run that fast,
After
like,
they
bro.
shot him, then we in the streets marching about why they shouldn't. Nah,
Right.
these kids got to do better, man. They have to do better. They have to. We got to be able to reach them somewhere halfway. We got to, you know, because the mindset is different. The mothers are younger. These babies raising babies, you
Yeah.
know, and we have to get away from that. We have to be able to. That's why I asked about the women. You got to be able to get these women also because the women, the young girls are having sex at 13, 14, 15 years old and wanting to
You
have
went
a
there.
baby. Wanting to have a baby.
You
You
went
know
there
what
now.
I'm saying? And it's crazy. And we have to get them away from that. We got to be able to help as many of them as we can.
But and another piece too, to kind of shift a little bit, Julius, and I think you may have mentioned it, but somebody, but how, and I think we all need to talk about this, but being vulnerable and dealing with trauma. So I think we all, when it comes to black males, you know, the older you get, that vulnerability piece kind of looks different for you, right? And so, but I think it's important to let young people know that ain't nobody perfect. You know, the world's gonna make it seem like you gotta be perfect, but there's some things, there's some pitfalls, there's some challenges out there that I have personally gone through, and these are some ways that you can avoid them. We don't always do a good job of being vulnerable, especially parents. And I can get the parenting part, but when you're in a mentoring role, being able to step back and say, "Look, this is how this can look for you. This is how it look for me," and also dealing with the trauma that people go through. We don't do a good job of that as a community. So, how do you all, in y'all experiences, dealt with that piece of the vulnerability and dealing with trauma of young people?
I like to be upfront with my trauma personally. I feel like I've been through so much trauma over my short life of 28 years. Where at first I, kind of when I lost my brother, I think my freshman year of high school, I really didn't talk about it. I wasn't happy. I was doing different things that I shouldn't have been doing, and I wouldn't know it. But it wasn't until I went to go get counseling and therapy where I started to realize like I never dealt with really losing my brother. I never dealt with that, and how that impacted me. And I also never mentally dealt with another one of my brothers going to do 12 years as well. I never, I had to sit with that. But for me, uh, I'm a firm advocate of listening to music to kind of get me through different things. And I know that once I got to a different space, like working with young adults and working with students, they need to hear that. They need to see like, all right, it's not just me. I'm not the only one going through these problems. And And I started to use my traumatic experience once once I got to a comfortable place with myself and where I wanted to be with my mental health. I started to use that to drive me and to become my purpose, my reasoning. So refocusing the trauma in a way where it's productive and constructive. And I think that's key. But we only get to that if we discuss those traumatic experiences. So I'll give you an example. So when Kobe Bryant passed, that hit me in the heart, and also Nipsey Hussle. And at the time, I was mentoring at the University of Florida with some young brothers through B-Men, and we all we went to go play basketball. We were just talking, and something little like that, just hooping, and like, man, I was here when I found out, and I just can't believe it, and boom, boom, boom. Like, it doesn't really matter what's discussed, but one thing that's important is that you're getting your emotions out, and you're to a point where you're dealing with undergraduate students from the age of 18 to maybe 22, and you're talking to adults from 28 to maybe 40, and you're like, okay, they feeling the same way about somebody they really don't know. So, but we do know him in a way. Like, we feel like we know Kobe. Like, he's close to our heart, and it gets worse when it is people that you do know. You feel like you can't turn to nobody, or you want retaliation, and retaliation only bring you so much comfort, and that hurts another family in general. So and I think it's just the point with us coming together and exposing us. So I'll get on social media all the time and I'm starting to feel bad or whatever, and I might post a lyric, I might post like a little saying of how I'm feeling, and they'll be like, oh, I hope you're okay, Tev. No, I'm actually great. Me doing that shows you that I'm okay. I trust you, because me doing that was so vulnerable to express how I'm feeling in that moment to the world, regardless of who could see it, my employer, my students. I don't care. I'm an open book because I'm proud of who I am. And if you can't accept that, then you're not for me anyway. Because if God is for me, who can be against me? And that's how I look at it. And so at that moment, you have to become comfortable in that struggle. And the crazy thing is, a lot of these young kids, they have the grind and they have the struggle. They just need to restructure it in a productive, constructive way. And I think that is the scary part for people who don't want to see you be successful, because they realize, like, if he turns that grind into something else, he's going to be a problem. Because
in a good way,
you may be able to sell drugs really well. But the crazy thing is, if you turn that hustle into selling drugs really well, and you can sell shoes really well, especially how crazy that the shoe market is right now, you can be a millionaire.
I'll be an investor.
Yeah, you can refocus your energy into something else, but it takes people to social emotional coaches at the early age, and not shunning kids who are having breakdowns in the elementary schools and deeming them as bad or delinquent. It takes like, okay, why are you upset? Okay, let's write down, here's a journal. Let's write down our feelings. Put in every feeling that you're feeling in this book right here. And this is your book. And let's write down everything in there. Or coloring, whatever it takes for you to be okay. But they have to see those practices. Those practices aren't established as normal at an early age to turn that into a habit.
Okay. Where are we at on the subjects? How long we were going today, Robert?
We can go to 30, because these young folk here preaching, boy. I tell you, y'all like some fire.
Okay.
We go to 130. I'm with it.
All right.
And that's the thing. And that's the thing, Mr. Hall. And I share the same thing. I can say young people now. Y'all in y'all 20s and 30s. I wish I would have. I know, hey, skin products work well, but y'all are young folks. So we just love to hear this, the creativity and the passion y'all have. I mean, I think the next thing is just one of the things we talked about too. And Charles Strayhorn, I mean, you know a lot about Dr. Charles Strayhorn writes about sense of belonging, and how if we don't have these programs and there's nothing that these young people see at home, that sense of belonging goes to maybe the streets or somewhere else. And so how do you all maintain sense of belonging to make it sustainable? Because, I might feel I belong in this group this year, but next year I'm getting older and I want to be with the cool kids. So how do you kind of balance that or keep that as a energy?
Topics of today. Music. sports, because I sit and I listen to my boys have conversations with their friends, and everyone has their own opinions. And so when we get all of those different opinions into a group, then we have an open conversation. We have a I'm not going to say a debate, but they're able to um, see where each other is coming from in an environment that's not competitive, that's not judgmental, but it opens up their minds, and it opens up their I don't even know how I'm trying to say it.
It's kind of like a safe
But
space.
yeah, they feel safe to be able to say how they feel and what they think about these different situations. And not all of the boys are athletes. My 12-year-old is more of a gamer than he is an athlete. And so there are other young boys that are more gamers than they are athletes. And so with Jacob's friends, who's 12, Daniel's friends, who's 13, and they're both different, when they come together, they all just they mesh. And so I feel like, and because they're all, on the same level as far as what's cool and what's not cool, it never gets old. They always have something to talk about. And so in the midst of them talking about the things that they like, then we try to throw in the subject of what's going on in the media and how that makes them feel. So they're already gassed on what they were already talking about as far as sports and gaming. When I asked them, well, how do you feel about the insurrection? Or how do you feel about the guy who was just at the Capitol with the bomb? You know, then they can express their opinions, because their opinion isn't wrong. It's how they feel. And so if they feel comfortable with opening up that way, and like Tevin was saying about the journaling, how about all of these boys a journal to write down how they feel? And I don't know if they use it to, actually write words. Jacob uses his to draw little avatar men. And so
Hey, but
that
that's
helps
good.
them.
Yeah.
It is so small because they feel so passionate about it that they can talk about it for like 40 minutes straight. And then we have a dialogue.
Okay. Um, I have an event I have to go to, but I hate that I got to go because they're calling for me. Um, but this is part two. We're gonna have part three, and we're gonna have some more people on.
Okay.
Which probably we see if we can get Miss Hudson on Star Daisy, since she has all these wise comments that people need to hear. We'll see whether the next time you schedule it that we have some more young
Yeah.
people on who is trying to make a difference. I know she has a mentoring group also. She has a group where she tried to reach out to young women called My Light, uh, Her Light Shine. So,
Okay.
so we need to get all you all together. I even got a friend that's in. He'll travel anywhere, Tiffany, and to talk to your group. He's a prison guard in North Carolina, but he'll come to you in Athens and put on the presentation to your group, um, and because he's trying to scare them straight also, and he don't want to see them coming there where he is. So if you ever need it, his name is Keith Richardson, but I'll get with you. You can contact and get my information from Robert. But we need to save these kids any way that we can. I also
Yeah.
have another person that I would like to hook you up with, Julius Campbell. Julius is doing some great things also with the youth and returning citizens. So it all correlates together. And we need to try to get everybody under the same umbrella to try to do some things. Um, so, with that being said, I just want to tell you and Tevin that it was nice meeting y'all. I look forward to seeing y'all next month, same time, Robert, he does it once a month
Yeah,
with the mentoring. So we'll have Robert
and
Jordan
Julius,
on also.
you might want to bring Tevin in on your sports show. Tevin is a wrestler, college wrestler.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make sure you get all my information and everything so
Okay.
we can, because we're going to be starting that up in September.
All right.
All right. All right. It was nice meeting y'all. I got to go. Robert, I'll handle y'all, take y'all on out from here, and
Yeah.
I'll see y'all later.
See you later.
So yeah, but going back to that topic, I know Tevin, you talked about it. If you could kind of elaborate a little bit more, when I think you mentioned last show where you even go to some hip hop lyrics and use that as a way of discussion, coping, kind of thinking through, what's going on around us.
Yes. Yeah, so I'm pretty in tune, I would say, with different rappers. A lot of rappers, some of them I listen to. It just depends. But I like rappers who have content, and I mean content of they're talking about traumatic experience. Like Meek Mill is probably one of my favorite ones because he's always going to talk about his traumatic experience, and he's going to formulate it in a way where it's motivational in a sense. And it's again goes back to redirecting. Nipsey Hussle is another great artist. Lil Durk, I really like listening to his music because he talks about his traumatic experience, and even at this point starts referring to himself as the voice because he's saying like I'm no longer really a part of this. However, I still got 100 of stories to tell of my guys who I came through with, and I think it's great. So I might be giving a presentation or doing something, and I might drop a lyric or I might drop a saying like Nipsey Hussle's "Never Let a Hard Time Humble Us." That's one of my favorite ones. And I make sure that I write that down every day or every time that I'm going through something where I just feel like I want to give up. But I start to realize I'm like, it's so many people that are counting on me that I don't even know. Or it's so many people who are rooting for me that I don't even realize who's rooting for me. And that kind of keeps me going. And I think when you place that emphasis in an educational academia way, how I'm able to do it in the classroom, it hits. And it may not hit all the students, but I might hit one or two of them, and that's fine with me. Because I don't know, it's like I love music. It's therapy for me. And it's a way for me to see like it's like I come from this in a sense. So it's like, all right, it's because I'm always on the line of like, like F the police, but we need to be doing this. Like I don't know how far I can get away from it, but I'm so ingrained in it because I come from it, and I still have family that are still in the trenches and that are still living in poverty and stuff like that. So it's I'm not far removed. One bad mistake for me could end me in the same type of situation because I'm still a young black male at the end of the day, and I think it takes for people like me who were able to. I always say I beat the odds because statistically I should not be here. And I think when artists make it, and I hate, this is kind of going back to our other conversation too. I hate when people put a lot of emphasis on artists to be, let's say, inclusive or this or that. I'm like, that's just not who they are. Like, they don't know nothing about that. They didn't take classes. They don't read, like they probably never read a book about this. Like they don't know. And that's why I'm saying like, but your politician, they know better. They know better. So I think for me personally, I try to listen to music for not only myself, but to also still relate into ways. And the crazy thing is, I feel like, Lil Durk is like 22, 23 years old and lives a whole totally different life than I have ever lived or my family has ever lived, to be honest. And you can still hear your story in his story. And that just shows you that the hood is not a place, it's a thing. And a lot of people don't realize that it doesn't matter where you're at because you're talking about gang culture in Athens, and I'm like, what are you talking about? like how is there gangs in a rural city like that? Like, or when I was
major research one.
Yeah, it's a lot of I'm like, what are you upset about? Like, then you go down to Florida, and Florida's the same way, and I'm like, y'all got these beaches, and y'all upset, but that's how deep it is. And you even look at LA, you look at Compton. I'm like, y'all are look at this. This is great, but they don't view it like that because they have been ingrained to see it a different way because it's a thing, it's a thought process, and you see that a lot with artists who are able to escape it then you start to realize that they continue to do the same thing. Now they're just doing somewhere else on a higher level, and they're still getting in trouble. Are they still getting arrested? Are they still doing like dumb things, right? And it's just common because that you can see that those practices, it's ingrained because it's not a place, it's a mentality. And I think sometimes that comes in a bigger question when things hit the wall and people are like, oh, that's not hood of them, or they find out at the last minute that the streets don't really love you. I can tell you right now, the streets will never love you, period. They're gonna use you up and spit you out, and they will take your little brother and your mama too. And as soon as people realize that, that's the easier their life will be. Because I remember with my nephew, I used to take him to visit his father all the time when he was locked up, and it was that I'm like, hey man, I don't want to see you like this. You feel me? Like, you see all this like patting us down, and we gotta take off our shoes, we gotta take off our belts, and the way they talking to us, they talking to us like we inmates, and I was like, I'm not trying to see you like that. But unfortunately, sometimes the systems and generational curses are really hard to beat, especially if you don't have the supportive system. Because one person, that was a part that I had to start to agree with. Like, I could not save everybody in this world. It's just impossible. Like, hell, Jesus couldn't even do it. They killed Jesus. Like, so you got to really think about that. Like, you just cannot do everything for everybody. You cannot be everything to everybody. But it takes a community of people to do that. And I use the things that I already do normally that are tradition to me, because I don't have to fake it. You don't really have to listen to me. But hey, like I just told y'all, like, I have brothers that are felons, and I was able to escape. I was able to keep my record clean. I was able to make good decisions to get me to where I need to be. So why not listen to me? It's not like I'm trying to tell you. I always tell that to the rest of my nephews now. I was like, I'm not telling you to do anything that I wouldn't do. And that's just what it is. Because again, I still have that hood mentality in my head where I'm going to decode the matrix to try to keep you out of a situation. And I get it. You might catch a hardship and you get in trouble and stuff like that, but you can bounce back. As long as you have your life and you can breathe, even if you're sitting in prison for a life sentence, you can still contribute writings, your word. You can still try to further your education. It's not over. It's never over until it's over. And I think that they need to hear that, a lot of it.
But that's true. That is so true. As you were talking, I was thinking about this whole idea of it just slipped my mind, but it'll come back to me. Tiffany, what do you have to say? That I got to rethink, because he was throwing out some information.
My bad. I get on my hand.
No, that's good, but I was just into
Tammy, you're absolutely right. We have to. We can't save. No, we can't save everybody. I can't save all the youth in Athens, but I am going to support as many as I can. And I'm, like you said, I'm going to continue to reiterate, like, you don't have to go down this road. You don't. This does not have to be your life. Just because you see it, like you said. And I think I'm going to put that on the shirt. Like, the hood is not a place, it's a mentality. Because we all have this mentality that we live in the hood, that we can't come out of the hood. And then our counter races, they have, the hood is, there's always a negative stigma to the hood. But you don't have to be a part of that. You don't have to be what people see. I mean, what people think. Like, just because I stay on this side of town, and I love the east side of Athens, and I stay on the east side of Athens because I know that there is goodness that can come from the east side of Athens, because I'm a product of my environment. And I'm not the only one that is a product of our environment. We want to see our environment better. We want to see our neighborhoods better. We want to see our children come out of our neighborhoods with diplomas, with jobs, with aspirations to be better, with college. Like, we want to see our children grow up to be like you, Tevin. We want them to go out to be doctors and come back and save our neighborhood. So everything that you said is so dead on, and we just have to continue to support our youth. We have to continue to pour into them. with the rap lyrics, with breaking the rap
Mhm.
lyrics down, with taking quotes from their favorite rappers. They
The
see that.
crazy thing is that they listen to the same music, and their favorite artist is talking about their traumatic experience, but they're not. They're not.
Mhm,
I'm like, so you listening to him because that's a way for him to vent. This got him
mhm.
millions or thousands of dollars. Why won't you do the same in a way where it can make you money, or it can, or serve a bigger person, a purpose? That's the crazy part, especially about music. You're like, oh, I don't want to talk about my feelings, but you'll go on and turn on a little dirt. So you'll listen to another person tell you about their feelings, but you don't want to tell me about yours.
That's right.
It's indeed. But you know what? This is what I'm gonna say. And this, I'll start with this. That's why it takes people like y'all and other people to run for office, run for these seats, because it blew my mind, y'all. Think about this. You got so many politicians so damn worried about what's going on in Afghanistan, getting those people out. But the same people won't talk about gun laws and saving black males from being hunted in their own
That's
country.
right.
Y'all think
That's
about
right.
that. I'm more, you got these jackasses more concerned about saving people in Afghanistan who we ain't got nothing to do with. But you
Mhm.
got black males being murdered by the police and others, and
Yeah.
you got people hungry, and you got a poverty issue, and you got all
Yeah.
these other issues, and you ain't worried about that. Come
Yeah.
on now. But socialism is wrong. I don't y'all better start running for office and waking up. It's exactly what Seven said. Y'all will hold a dang LeBron accountable for something. Or worry about what this person said about this. Or worry about the
Yeah.
damn Kardashians, but you got public policy that's damning your life every day.
Yeah.
You don't
Y'all
realize
better come with it.
the the crazy thing is, Benny the Butcher. Going back to some lyrics, Benny the Butcher says he said, "I learned more from being broke than I learned to having money," and as an and when I get in my seasons of turmoil in my life, and I realize I'm like me being broke. And still, I like this. I'm still broke. I'm just a PhD student, just broke. That like a little bit different. And
Yeah, you ain't going nowhere.
yeah, I know, right?
You
It's
better
just like,
believe.
hey, you got to get used to it. But I'm thankful for it. But a lot of people
Right,
who
right.
I know and stuff like that, they kind of struggle. Like, are they getting loans and stuff? I'm like, I don't really need no loans. I'll find a way. Like, I can hustle. I know how to make some bread, and and that's from what? That is from me being raised in the hood, being broke, living in poverty, and just having to make a way. If your bills is on, if your bills are paid, and your lights is on, and you got some type of food to put, in your stomach, you all right. You may not
Hmm.
be able to have the best, the best. You may not have salmon or whatever, but you can get some noodles and noodles, some chicken and beef, they five. What is that? It used to be about what 50 cent back in the jump. I don't know what they're running now, but put some water on them bad boys, some cheese, some hot sauce. Come on, and you gotta get people.
This nigga
It
don't
doesn't
say.
change. People think that you lead a hood and you just got bread now, and it's not. Like it's hard, it's a struggle, and it's a lot of money to be made out here. But I don't want. I always tell people, I'm like, I'm going to be wealthy, but I'm already wealthy. I just ain't. I just don't have the monetary value for it yet, but it's coming. Because if I was gonna
That's
give you
right.
$3 million right now, you would take it. You would do anything I probably say right now. Like you would just go do it. But if I tell you in 40 years you're gonna have $150 million in 40 years and we sign a contract, you're gonna do whatever you gotta do to get to that day. It don't matter when it's coming, as long as you get it. And I
Yeah,
think people gotta see that. They want quick turnarounds. And it's
yeah.
just
Yes.
that really. I mean it is like that in some degree, but it's harder for us. Quick money ain't the best money.
Well, it's a
That's right.
systematic thing. It's something y'all talk about lyrics. A lot of people go back to Tupac, don't even know what Thug Life stands for, and I'm gonna invite you to go look it up. But you talk about a system. He talked about it in his lyrics. And Thug Life, for those who don't know, means the hate you give little infants fucks everyone. If you want to
Mm,
know more about that, go look it up and check it out. That's what that meant. And people don't understand what that means. The hate you give little infants fucks everyone. Go
mm,
look it up. I'm gonna let you learn. Tevin, you probably know about it. Tiffany does too. Just think about that. Think about the system and how little people are born into the system, little black boys and girls, and how the hate they've been given as they grow up. It fucks everyone. We talked about economically.
mm,
It
Absolutely.
messes up communities. You got crime, and then you have a system that puts people behind who are trying to just only make it like the other folks. But anyway, I'll use it as my closing comments. What do you all have to close us out today?
I want to say this. Another Lil Durk lyric. He said, "Don't get shot in my neighborhood. Ain't no trauma units." So sometimes you got to drive 20, 25, 30 minutes, 45 minutes to go see a doctor, to go get some help. So just let that sit sometimes. And we talked about economic. That health insurance is a beast. And even taking an ambulance ride, that's about $10,000 ride right there. That's an expensive ride. And it's also expensive to get buried, because I don't want to see you out here thugging and busting and slinging dope, but your mama got a GoFundMe on her page when you showing all this money. So where that money at? Because I don't, so just be strategic. If this has always been my thing, if you're gonna do it smart. Put that money, reinvest the money back into the community. Make sure you do it, because that's just how it's gonna go. And I've gotten to that point to understand this sometimes just how it's going to go. However, you can be smart about it, and you can save in other individuals coming from behind you, so you can learn and not making the same mistakes twice. Now, personally, there's a lot more ways to make money. You can get a car wash, mobile car wash. You can go get a lawnmower for $125 and cut some yards for $10, $15. You can get a shovel if you live in a snowy area. Just find multiple ways to make money.
Yeah, and affiliate marketing.
It's just multiple ways to make bread.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna leave with that, because I've noticed that a lot of our hardships come from economic hardships, and I think they just need more exposure to multiple streams of income and avenue, and they got to be okay with that. And there's beauty in the struggle. That's J. Cole, in case y'all don't know that. That's all I got, though.
All right, Miss Tiffany, what you got to close us out with?
I would say, for everyone who is watching this live, who's been a part of this live, who's also had input, and we've said things to make you think, to go out and support your local grassroots organizations. If it's with your time, your talent, or like my pastor say, your tithing, just go out and support and help the ones who are trying to advocate for a better society for our youth, because they are our future. It's not about who's bigger, who's making a name for themselves, who's being seen doing it. Just go out and find someone that's doing it locally and see what you can do. A little bit can be a lot to someone. So that's all I have to say.
True. Well, thank you all for joining us who are watching. Share. We appreciate Tevin and Tiffany. We're definitely going to bring you all back for more shows on this topic and probably other topics. Make sure you all are liking All Things Relevant Media on YouTube or Facebook. They have, I think, we're right at about 17, 18 shows of different varieties. In September, Mr. Hall said we are adding a sport type show, so that should be exciting. But definitely share. Excuse me. It's been wonderful. We will see you here again next week, same time, same place. Y'all have a great week now.
See you. Thank you for having us. See you.
Bye, y'all.
Always a pleasure, Tiffany. Always a pleasure, Tiffany.